YouTube, this is Afro Man from Team Island MTG. This is my current standard deck. It's Jeskai enchantments, but it's not quite finished. I need a couple things. So we're going to go ahead and just go through what I've got now. We're going to start out the mana base with 3 Port Town. It was initially at 4, but it's way too slow late game, so I had to cut 1 copy. We've got 2 Battlefield Forge because we're not really worried about our life early game necessarily, so we can like tap these lands and be okay. We've also got a lot of other options, so usually those will only hit us for 1 turn. Wow, I just kind of ran through that one. We have 3 Shivan Reef. I don't know if you all saw it, but there are 3 Shivan Reef. We've got 3 Prairie Stream, 2 Needle Spires for our man lands, 2 Wandering Fumarole to round out our man lands, 3 of each basic in our colors, 3 Island, 3 Mountain, 3 Plains. Let's go ahead and hit our 1-drops. We have in the main board 2 copies of Fiery Impulse because we need to kill the early game guys to stay alive. Clutch Occurrence is to get rid of things like the other card, Fiery Impulse won't kill. Chaplain's Blessing, we've got a 1 of, 2 of in the main board because later in the game our life gets a little low if we're playing an aggro deck. I did not have this at an FNM. I placed 1 and 3 because I played 3 Naya mid-range decks that were essentially identical to one another. And so I was not prepared for the early game life loss, so I added Chaplain's Blessing and Fiery Impulse. Silk Wrap, we're just going to run the 1 of. I would like a 2 of, but also this deck isn't finished yet, and my card shop is really, really, really light on the cards that I need. So TCG player is probably where I'm going for another Silk Wrap. We've got a whole playset of Fevered Visions. I love it to death. You know, that's actually how I won the 1 game. I actually beat a Naya aggro deck with Fevered Visions because I was able to hit Sigil. I was able to hit my cheap enchantments to throw out a bunch of angels. We started trading creatures, and I just had Fevered Visions for the win. That 2 damage stacks up when you have a multiple Fevered Visions, and once you get out the whole playset, they lose 8 life every turn because they cannot have less than 0 cards in hand, and once they draw 4, they automatically trigger the ability. We've got 2 Tutelage. This one is not in English, which is pretty dope. I love it. It's my favorite copy of the card. We like the mill. I played 1 Naya aggro deck. I still ended up losing, but game 1 in the first round, I had both Tutelages out with 2 Fevered Visions, and I was just milling out all their outs. And so once those 2 come together, the synergy is perfect. We've got a Stasis Snare because, there we go, let's fix that focus. Stasis Snare because, you know, 3 mana flash is essentially instant speed removal. We've got 1 Radiant Flames in the main. We have 2 more in the board because we want to just be able to hose out their early guys. Angelic Purge is for things that we can't kill with Fiery Impulse, Radiant Flames, and that we can't consistently deal with enough to just hit it with a Clutch Occurrence. We have 2 more of these on the board as well. We've got an Oath of Gideon for the guys. I like casting Oath of Gideon before Angelic Purge because we can use this to exile 1 of his tokens so we keep our land and our enchantments. And this also helps when Gideon hits the board. We like to -4 immediately, so that way Hangerbacks and Thopters that come in later can help me survive my own Radiant Flames. So we like Gideon. Oath of Jace usually just triggers Tutelage, and the Scry once we start getting walkers is nice. We've got 2 Thopter Spy Network because we do have a lot of, we have 4 Hangerback total, 2 in the main, 2 on the board, and so Thopters are going to be there a lot. We also just have artifacts to trigger Thopter Spy Network. So we're going to be able to get in for damage quite often to get that card draw, which triggers Tutelage, and Thopter Spy Network itself is not a legendary, which means we can throw down 2 and trigger Sigil twice. We've got 1, 2 Pia and Kiran Nalar. It is a great Linvala target because you drop it, get the 2 Thopters, cast it next turn, get the 2 Thopters, which is pretty dope. And it's just an overall great card, regardless of whether or not you have not Linvala, Nahiri. It's a Nahiri trigger. Sorry, I said Linvala trigger. It is a Nahiri trigger. Her ultimate grabs this, and it does pretty well. Next, we've got Suspension Bonds. This is pretty much our Planeswalker hoser, along with Fever Divisions, but if we're fighting against a Gideon that we can't take control, or that we can't do anything against, or if we're fighting a huge Sylvan Advocate, or not even Sylvan Advocate, if we're fighting a Nissa deck where they like to throw out a lot of tokens, this helps kind of keep things in our favor. Now, what would I be with a standard deck with no Planeswalkers, right? I would be a chump. We're going to start off the Planeswalkers with Jace. The new Jace isn't that great, but I like that his +1 triggers tutelage, just helps us dig through for more gas to win the game. His minus essentially is the best tempo thing that he does, and if we're playing a control type deck, his ultimate is nice. I don't know how often we're going to get to ultimate with him, but it's nice. Nahiri, like I was talking about earlier, the card draw is great. She is removal. So turn 1, or the first turn she's down, if somebody just hit me with like Surrak or Thunderbreak or something big for 4 mana, her -2 is going down immediately. Her +1, or her +2 rather, is pretty great. And like I said earlier, her ultimate just lets us fetch for a guy. Gideon, ally of Zendikar, we all know what he does. We're not really worried about that too much. Yep, so Gideon's pretty great. And then we've got Narset. Narset's a slightly odd choice, but she does let us dig for enchantments and other things to trigger Sigil. She lets us dig for removal, and her ultimate stops our opponent for casting non-creature spells, which is pretty great. And if we've got something like Rending Volley, which is in the board, or Surge of Righteousness, or not Surge of Righteousness, Rending Volley, or maybe Impulse, we can -2 and give that spell rebound, but that won't be used very often at all. We've got 3 Sigil in the main. Sigil of the Empty Throne, 5 mana. Every time an enchantment hits the board, you get a 4/4 Angel. We've got a Starfield of Nyx. I only run 1, but I probably need to bump that up to 2. This actually has won me quite a few games because, obviously not the FNM, but its first ability is we get to flashback enchantments, which means when we're Nahiri, we can start pitching Sigils, or we can pitch Fevered Visions, or we can pitch Sphinx's Tutelage, excuse me. And as long as you control enchantments, 5 or more enchantments, everything that's not this or an aura becomes a creature as well, which means we have beaters late game. Linvala, I was talking about earlier, is my favorite Nahiri trigger. Whole reason I bought Linvala was for the Nahiri trigger. We gain 5 life, which essentially could happen twice. We could get 3/3/3 angels, or 2 3/3 angels rather. So that's pretty great. We've got 2 Hangerback. We don't really need to talk about what that does. And 2 Quarantine Field for mass removal. I actually got into a game with this guy who was running Naya Investigate with Giripur Aether Grid, which was, throw down a bunch of Investigate tokens with Tireless Tracker, and he would get all the tokens. He would put down the Aether Grid, start tapping those down, hitting me for damage. He would play... it's not Doubling Season. I forgot Shadows over Innistrad's version of Doubling Season, but you double all your tokens, which means he gets double all of his Investigates, which means he could double the amount of damage he was doing to me, and I just got hosed out that game. It was a really great rogue type build. I'll see if he'll let me highlight his deck Friday at our local FNM. But he ended up, I Quarantine Field his Aether Grid, and then he Quarantine Field my Quarantine Field. Just thought I might share that little quarry with you. We'll go into our board, and we've got Searing Light, which is great with small dudes early game. Encase in Ice really hurts Naya. I like it, and also it's an enchantment, so win-win. Rending Volley, like I talked about earlier, is just more color hate in our color. That's pretty much the only reason I'm running it. 4 damage is pretty great for 1 mana. We've got Surge of Righteousness, which is actually almost useless at this point. I might kick that out for another Stasis Snare soon, or heck, even a Starfield of Nyx. All hail, sorry, I ran my words together. Yeah, all hail Angelic Purge. We have 2 more because it's just all around great. You're straight up exiling something that you can't deal with, which is pretty dope. Then we've got a 1-of Clutch Occurrence in the board. We've also got a 1-of Clutch Occurrence in the main. We like to actually awaken Clutch Occurrence, so late game, that's still really relevant. We've got Angel's Tomb, which is nice. It turns into a 3/3 every time a creature hits the board, which synergizes really well with Invocation of Saint Traft. You equip that to a creature. Every time that creature swings, you put down a 4/4 angel that's attacking with it. So let's say we've got Pia and Kiran attacking here. And then we've got this equipped. A 2/2 swing turns into a 2/2 with a 4/4 with a 3/3. 9 damage is what that just turned into. So that's pretty great. That was our other Pia and Kiran in the board. We've got 2 Hangerback Walker on the board because creatures, like, Hangerback Walker is really good. I seem to draw it consistently when I have a playset. So when I'm playing a deck that's more aggro, one of the decks I lost to at FNM was Black-White Allies, which was a great build. I probably need to highlight that one as well. But that kind of hosed me out because I couldn't drop enough creatures fast enough. As soon as I dropped Hangerback Walker, I'd block for the Thopters, use all of the Thopters to block his things, and then I'd be stuck in the same position again. And I've got 2 more Radiant Flames to round out the sideboard. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. We've got a Blue-Black Zombies deck tech coming up Friday. It'll probably be Saturday morning or afternoon when that finally gets uploaded. But we've got Blue-Black Zombies coming up. We should have a FNM overview coming up. Thank you for watching. Show it to your friends. Be sure to comment any suggestions about either the Gruul Toolbox deck or the Blue-White Tempo Toolbox deck for suggestions that I could get for $20. And anything that you might want to suggest about my standard deck, go for it. I'm open to suggestions. That's why it's actually a lot different than how I initially built it. So I appreciate you all, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.